Mary Kate, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome on to the Modern Warrior podcast. It is a delight to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, we connected earlier on this year, I believe, where you ran the Shite to Light. Fucking love that name. Shite to Light program, where you interviewed a whole list of men who are on this path of healing and spirituality on a journey that's greater than them, perhaps. And I was one of the very lucky individuals to be interviewed by you. Thank you again for that opportunity.
You're welcome.
The first individual to be interviewed by you. Thank you again for that opportunity. And yeah, I felt a great sense of connection between our conversation, between us. And I wanted to dive deeper into this and invite you onto this podcast and explore this connection, but also explore the connection that you have found within yourself, because I see you as a very unique and special individual, and any of you listening will come to realize what I mean by that as we go through this conversation. And I'm very excited to explore more of you. And to begin, maybe it would be a good place to go is to revisit those foundations on which Mary Kate was perhaps built in this lifetime. And perhaps talk to us about some of the complexities, complications, experiences in your earlier life that formed this life. Again, it's out of our control, as we both understand. Some people are not going to get this. That formed this life that you now live. Very, very incredible being that you are, and very incredible work that you do. So you bring us back.
Where do I begin?
You go where you feel is necessary. Where you feel it.
Firstly, you're probably going to see that there are many characters that come out of me, and they are spontaneous. So forgive me for all the different accents and the different ways in which I may present this one being that happens to be many beings in one. So brought up in Leeds in the north of England by first generation Irish parents. So I am second generation Irish. What that meant, I suppose, as a larger context, was I was Irish in England and English in Ireland. So never quite fit the box anywhere. However, we had an incredibly big social family that were very interconnected, and the Irish culture was very, very big. Early 80s, Northern England. My dad worked very, very hard, had left a very small place on the west coast of Ireland, Belmullet. People say, where are you from? Belmullet. I always say, you'll never have heard of it. Everyone has heard of it.
There you go, yeah.
It's the tiniest little peninsula. And it's magical. It's a magical, magical place, as is a lot of Ireland. But for me, that is the most magical place. And so I had simultaneously a very magical childhood. So I would come back to visit my grandparents and my family every summer and just live in this energy that just felt like wonderland. But also a very tough sort of energy, 1980s, working hard, Maggie Thatcher, a little bit of dissonance with the English and the Irish still, not to go political, but there was a lot of political unrest, and we could feel it and sense it as children, even though we weren't in the conversation. And to cut a very long story short, like many boys and girls, men and women that were brought up in England with Irish descent parents, and like any immigrant parents, we had our own culture. We still experienced the same conditioning, the same kind of traumas that our parents would bring down in terms of discipline, in terms of the way they expected us to behave. But we were in a different culture. So we were expected to behave like 1950s Irish, but we were in 1980s England. So there was a real kind of uncomfortable energy around freedom and about how I call it the smile for the stranger. You know, there's a very big, I'm looking good energy, but on the inside, there's a lot of unrest. And that unrest I have found with my journey has been very ancestral. I may have taken it personally in my early years and kind of fought against my parents, become a rebel without a cause. But as I've grown and learned more about myself and about the culture deeper and connected with a lot of people within the same sphere, I wrote 3 books and a lot of people came back to me saying, oh my gosh, that's my story. And I just never realised that it would be anybody else's story. And now I realise that, you know, these ancestral patterns are very deep in us. And at the moment, I feel like we're in a time period where that is becoming dissolved. You used that word before. I really like that word. It's a dissolving. We don't have to solve anything. It's releasing itself. There's like this chain that is becoming unlocked. And we are the links in that chain. And that's how I see my past now, as these chain links with lots of other people that we're now starting to release and become individuals. But ironically, as we become individuals, we actually become more of a collective, which is really beautiful. So I'm not sure if that answered what it is that you're looking for, but ask me more questions. I'll tell you no lies.
Was it a place of confusion for you primarily as a child?
I'd say so. I'd say I was brought up in a very, very strict environment, but my parents might not agree with that. And again, as I am learning, everybody's perspective is so very different. You know, my parents may have thought they were incredibly lenient in comparison to how they were brought up. But for me, I felt very restricted, very disciplined. As I'm becoming more aware now, I'm realising that I had a big part to play in that. I was very, I rejected a lot of my upbringing and yet still really loved it at the same time. I just wanted freedom all the time. And I believed as I was younger, freedom meant doing what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do, where I wanted to do it. And as I got older and wiser and deeper into this work, I realized that freedom doesn't come without discipline. And discipline is the disciple. It's, you know, I'm actually following a path where sometimes the narrower the road, the more freedom you have to experience, because you're not filling your head with fragments and clutter. And I think the closer I got to, again, confusion, fusion, the 2 elements, I started to close that gap. And maybe that's why I went on my healing journey in the first place, to close that gap, to find more clarity, more certainty. I could feel. I had a very, very strong sense of feeling. I could see people. I could see colours, auras, shapes, nervous systems. But I sounded like a loony. And so I made it into stories. Went to university, studied psychology, sociology, and brought in some religion in there as well, and management and business, and always felt this kind of, I'll speak a bit astrologically.
Go for it. We're going to go here now, so you may as well bring us.
This Capricorn energy that's very, very strong, focused, ambitious, moving forward linearly up the mountain. You know, I'm taking myself to the top. And this very, very different energy that's quite a Pisces energy that is, I'm just everything and anything and rainbows and magical unicorns, and they just didn't fit with each other. And throughout my life, I experienced this incredible divinity energy along with this high masculine corporate energy. And so I've always lived in 2 worlds.
Push and pull. Would you call it? Yeah. Yeah. The battle of the pushing and the pulling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of the ego versus the divine.
I have something very special in my chart. It's not special. It's really annoying. I've got Saturn at my apex. Saturn, that sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? Saturn rules Capricorn, and it also rules linear time. restrictions, karma, the script. And at your apex, that's literally like having a boulder at the top of the mountain. So you're pushing it up the mountain all the time, only to let it roll down again in order for it to go back up. So there has been high levels of frustration for me in my life until I really started to work with that boulder instead of arguing with it.
Interesting. When did you begin to wake up to this realization of the gifts that you hold, instead of perhaps feeling a certain amount of shame around them because they were rejected by others and you felt that this is something that you had to hide and keep secret? When did you begin to embrace this, and what did that look like?
I don't know if I hid them. I think I really threw them in my parents' face, to be honest. It was a bit more like, well, I know. And that was one of the biggest things. I know. Asha, she knows everything, that one. But unfortunately, it felt like I could feel the knowing, the gnosis, the wisdom. I could sense things that I was like, well, I've never had experience of that in this life. So how could I know these things? How am I able to language certain things that I've got absolutely no experience with? And that's when I kind of started going into astrology. And it just called me. I started talking to my friends at university about star signs. And before you knew it, when I was going into the corporate world, I worked in recruitment. And that really served me amazingly well. I was a young whippersnapper, loads of ego, big gob. Just thought, I can match people, no biggie. But part of the role was I had no clients and no candidates. I had to find both. So I had to sell a candidate to a client. I had to sell a client to a candidate. So a bit of a matchmaking situation. And also then do all the marketing around that, do all the literally run a business from scratch as a kid, but with the backing of a bigger business. And part of that process meant I had to interview everyone. Hence why I'm a good interviewer. I'd have to interview people, like 10 people a day. So I got really quick. I could read their birth charts very fast, because what I started to do was look at their date of birth and then see if their characteristics in the interview actually sat with what it was that I could see in the astrology. And, when you're interviewing that many people a day, you find a lot of correspondence very quickly. And so I didn't tell my clients that, I've got you a fantastic Aries. They're going to be really creative. I've got a brilliant Virgo. She's going to be a fantastic secretary. But I would be able to match them, and it worked really well. And my candidates loved it because they found out a lot about themselves, and the clients loved it because they got the right match. And once I had my first daughter, while I was expecting my first daughter, Molly May, she is now 14. I don't even know where to go with that one, but yeah.
I'm right there with you. I've got a 14-year-old as well. So
I know, it's just like,
I
what?
feel your pain. It's okay. Yeah.
While I was expecting her, again, something very strong, I experienced this desire to read complex mathematics, to read metaphysics, to go into the seed of life, to follow orgasmic birth, to have a look at just a deeper complex situations of kind of spirit science. I now know, looking back, that was a call from my child, because she is incredibly intelligent. She's a real genius mathematically. And so, of course, that energy was calling me forward. But it's also laid another foundation to part of that work. So there was the astrology. Then there was like this divine calling around kind of Egyptian energies, really old, mythical energies, Egyptian, then the Greek, then the Roman. Then there was more callings when I was expecting my second child, that was way more about placing my hands on people and wanting to actually heal people or hold them in particular frequencies. So once she was born, I then left recruitment altogether. In fact, I'd left when Molly May was born, sorry. But I left corporate altogether and focused on the healing. And at first I just thought, I'm going crazy. This is, I can read this stuff. I can talk about this stuff. I can definitely, read astrology. I can see things in people, but let's give this a go and see how it goes. And within a couple of months, my nursery where my little girl was sleeping was turned into a healing room, and it was packed. It was just, everyone was coming in going, please, can you work with me? Can you work with me? Can you work with me? So for like a 30-minute session, it turned into 2 hours, 3 hours. And before you knew it, the whole energy had changed. And I was finding this really overwhelming. But long story short, again, I heard this voice, which I'd mentioned to you before we came on podcast. You have to lose it all. I was making tea. I don't drink tea anymore.
You had to lose that as well.
Oh, I was stirring this tea in the kitchen, and I just remember this energy of, it felt like forever. Everything went black. It felt like forever. And I know it was only a couple of seconds because I was still stirring the tea. And it actually, I didn't hear you have to lose everything. I felt that. And what I actually heard was yes. That was the word that I heard. Yes. And it was a compelling yes. And not long after that, I ended up separating with my husband. I met a spiritual mentor very quickly. We worked together. He felt something very strange. Well, not just very strong in my energy. And he started teaching me about Native American wisdom, which was very powerful. It was earth wisdom. It gave me new language. I started working with people deeper, working with relationships, working on myself. And that kind of brought us up to COVID time. And we couldn't see people anymore. I mean, my home was packed with people coming in and having healing sessions. And that's when I decided to go online. I thought, well, what else can I do? So I started speaking about what it was that I was doing online, set up a private group on Facebook, became incredibly popular very quickly, had a really amazing community of women around the world that wanted to learn what was happening. I set up the Sunday service, which essentially I had nowhere to go on a Sunday. So I decided to do my own mess, which was great crack. Some tunes, a little bit of crack, whatever was happening astrologically that week. And then on the back of that, grew a massive client base around the world because everyone wanted to learn their astrology, what was happening. And then the world opened up and I started to do more corporate stuff, working with business owners that wanted the secret sauce. And
what is the secret sauce?
I'm sure I cannot tell you what the secret sauce is because it's secret.
Is it based on each individual?
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing this work, you'll find everything comes back to the heart.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the work that we do, regardless of where, I'm very fortunate, like I said, to have the business experience, the healing experience, the matching experience, and also a lot of marketing. It doesn't matter what the strategy is if you can come from that deeper energy, your own personal essence, which we know, we just don't listen to. Everybody knows. I have yet to meet one person that doesn't know the answer to the question that they are asking at every single moment of their day. They just don't want to believe the answer.
Why?
Because it hurts too much to change.
The truth will piss you off before it sets you free.
Absolutely. And if you ain't pissed off, it isn't the truth. That's usually what happens. So when I learned that, I actively got myself pissed off. I heard the voice again. Time to lose. And it was sore this time. It was a lot sorer this time.
Why?
Because this time I had a lot more to lose. and it was masked again as one of my values, which is freedom. it was masked as freedom. But for the last 10 years, I've known I would end up in Ireland at some point, bring me all the way back to that magical energy as a child. And whatever happened the day I felt that energy, I was living in a beautiful home. I had incredible clients. I was on the outside, I'd ticked a lot of boxes. In fact, there's been a couple of times in my life where I could say all the boxes are ticked. Everything's looking good. But what's happening inside? And I just felt myself inside of a very pretty prison. And I decided to move myself and my children to Ireland, to the home place of my father. It all felt very magical to begin with. And it's been a really challenging 2 years. I know I'm supposed to be here still. I can feel what is coming next. But my ego really had to dissolve. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, it has dissolved. Probably still got a little bit to go. I never say that out loud because I'm like, shit, the next is on its way. But
completely dissolving the ego is not
no, you still need
a
to
good idea.
Walk around.
Yeah, integrating the ego in a healthier way, would you say?
Absolutely. And, I suppose if I use the terminology that I use all the time is the shadow and the light, essentially. We are all perfect the way that we are. And again, language is something that I'm very, very keen on, how would I say it? Policing a little bit, because we don't always understand the language that we're using. So perfect in terms of divinity is not, this is, there's no flaws.
It's not purely physical.
Yeah.
Which is where a lot of people place their focus on, whereas where the ego.
Yeah. The ego loves the material world. It's supposed to be. The ego is there for us to experience the material world. Because if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be able to play in this game. And this game is a very exciting game, but knock on wood, is this even real? Let's not go too far. But everything in the material world is slowed down sound frequency. So, but we're not always able to perceive these energies. And so they have to be slowed down for us to perceive them. What am I trying to say? Everything is a frequency. And without the ego, without the sensuality of the body, without the senses, we wouldn't be able to perceive what was happening. So the ego helps us perceive what's happening. Part of its function is to keep us safe. And safe is an illusion. But survival as a child was very much like, oh, I've just been dropped from, let's say, divinity or non-materialized consciousness, so non-physical consciousness. I'm now in a physical realm. Can I swear?
Yes.
What the fuck? What the fuck is this? Most babies cry and scream when they come into this world. Like, what is going on here? Okay, I've decided I'm coming, but this isn't really quite what I thought it was going to be. Now I need to navigate this game. And I often say to my clients, think of Mario Kart. You jump in, you think it's really exciting. You're about to go, zooming around, and you've got to jump up and catch these coins, and, there's obstacles in the way, and it's really cool. But actually, you could fall off a cliff and you have to start again. But what happens if you're really good at that level of the game? You get lifted to the next level. But it's not always the same game. There might be coins there now that if you touch, they actually bring you down a level. But you don't know until you play. You don't know until you lose. You don't know until it hits you. So a lot of the ego is about figuring that bit out. So before you're 7, you're figuring out Mario Kart. You're like, well, my own personal parents, environment, all of that stuff. And by the time you're 14... and you've done 2 rounds of Mario Kart, you're like, I know now. I know how to drive this car. I'm well versed, and you're just like, you don't know. How would I do? We've got teenage girls. They know everything. I remember being one. I knew everything too.
Mm-hmm.
And so you then go to like the next level and you start realizing that, hold on a minute, there's some things that are not serving me here. I keep jumping for these coins and these coins keep knocking me over. But it's a muscle memory. It's a memory in the body. It's a memory in the nervous system. And so essentially the healing journey in itself is to open that nervous system. The ego is against opening the nervous system because it thinks if it keeps it closed and it keeps in those first 7 years, it's always going to win the level. It's like, dude, the levels have got different rules. Each time you move up a level, there's a different rule you're going to have to learn again. So dissolving the ego is more about talking to the ego, talking to the child inside, going, come on, let's learn a new way. You're going to be all right. I know it's a bit scary, but you're going to be all right. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. Come on, I've been there before. I'll show you. And that's what the guides are, essentially. It's like, come on, I've been there. You're going to be okay. Yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, people are going to think you're crazy. Yes, you might end up not being in the relationship you thought you were going to be in. You might end up not having the career you thought you were going to have. You definitely won't be living where you thought you were going to be living. The parents that you've got may, turn out to be very different people to who you thought they were. There's a myriad of things that can shift and change. It's accepting that those first 7 years, which is highly non-verbal, really, and very felt sense, can be grown. So we can grow past the constraints of what that safety mechanism, that survival mechanism is within the child, within the ego. And we're all returning back to divinity anyway. So essentially it's going from that conditioning to a new level of conditioning, which always starts with the nervous system, because that's our electrical circuit in the body. So to kind of bring it full circle, that's what I could see as a child. And when I was doing the healing, that's what I could see too. I could see pictures, songs, energies. I didn't know how. It was just coming. And the wisdom work that I've done around that was to support that rather than to create that, which I think when you said, oh, you were hiding your gifts and the shame, there was shame around that. There was shame around me having that at all, that I was very different and that I didn't belong. But the more I learned about esoteric wisdom, the more I learned about physiology of the body and the mind and unseen energies, the more I was just like, this is a magical child that needs to be supported. Go back to your first 7 years. How were you? Rainbows and unicorns were real. Gavin, I was galloping around on unicorns in my mind. And now I live on Ireland, where there's rainbows all the time because there's rain all the time. and it feels magical, but now I can see the magic of nature. Now I can see the energy. Now I don't have to convince or push or, Daddy, I'm magical, which essentially is my wound.
The cry for attention. The cry for attention.
Oh, yeah.
Which many of us have.
We all have, in one way or another. Some of us cry because we're magical.
Is that a part that you believe requires healing, or is that a part that you believe requires acceptance?
For attention. So attention, when we're a child, if you have a look at your parents, they're your gods. You want attention from the gods. As we grow, we start to realize that we are the gods. So we get to look inside ourselves for that attention. And we go a step further, that there is that divine, the real God, God's universe, energy, source, life, whatever you want to call it. If we really want attention, it's from that place. And once we start really realizing that everything else is a detour, everything else through, there's a lot around relationship and twin flame and masculine and feminine and all of that stuff at the moment. And really all that, again, it's a call to look inside. It's a call to find your own attention, your own love, your own wisdom. Pluto's gone into Aquarius. Sorry, Astro again. This is all about, Pluto is about the shadow, it's about the soul, it's about the journey of the soul. And Aquarius is very much about the collective, but the collective as a set of individuals. So you cannot have a real melting pot, an exciting and unique collective without an exciting and unique individual. So it's this paradox that all communities are made up of different individuals with different roles, with different energies, and the world community is the same. Pluto comes in and starts wrecking what was the old system, which was the Capricorn system, which is we have the majority at the base of the pyramid, and then we have the elite at the top with lots and lots of money and lots of power. Aquarius wants us to be in more of a community-oriented energy, more of a circle energy, from the pyramid to the circle. And I noticed that Primal has both the pyramid and the circle in their
in the logo.
Branding.
Yes.
Yeah, it's class. But where we're kind of going, as I mentioned at the beginning, these unlinking energies, is we're starting to heal the need for the other's gaze. So if you think about when you're born and, your mother picks you up and gazes into your eyes, like that's the first time you're a human being and you've connected with another human being. And if we really, really look at the deeper structures of that, that's the nervous system that birthed your nervous system. It should, and we talked about that word, be the safest, most intimate connection you will ever experience. As we move through life, we learn that that's not always safe for whatever reason. And we yearn for that again. We yearn for it in every second of our day. Because like you can feel now as I'm speaking to you, it connects, it goes into your heart. You can feel it. You can feel it as I'm speaking to you. I know because that's my work. And that's how I get to hold people in that energy, because as they experience that energy with me, they're returned back to that place. But what they find in that place is themselves. And that can be fucking scary. But all there is love.
God put himself in the only place that he knew you wouldn't look, in your heart. Yeah. And that's the place that we disconnect ourselves from the most, especially,
men,
perhaps
yeah.
especially for men. It's all in the head. It's all doing. It's all thinking. It's all problem solving. It's all logistical. And it's very little being and feeling. As I mentioned before, you need to be to feel. You need to feel to heal. And there is an incredible avoidance from the pain. And of course, we are completely consumed by temptations of pleasure. Your phone, pleasure. What's on that phone, more pleasure. The access to sugar, alcohol, drugs at the moment, it's right there within your pocket every single day, and completely dissolves the opportunity for you to find what it is you're actually looking for, which can only be found within and in the heart. And it's a journey I'm on, as you're aware of, is returning back to the heart, returning back to source. And that is beautiful, yet yet difficult place to go, because the ego still wants to, I'll speak about myself at the moment, like the ego still wants to pull me away into temptation, into distractions, into pleasure, into more work, into more training, whatever. Just, hey, run the fuck away from yourself because you don't want to know this.
What are you going to find?
You don't want to know this. You know, that's stick to the story that you know, because what you know is where you feel familiar, where you feel safe. But we get stuck in safety, and that stuckness can come through addictions, work addiction. I've been there. Porn addiction. I've been there. Alcoholism. Been there. Even still running away from myself into healthy outlets. The gym, the sauna, the sea. Yeah, I'm fucking doing great. Climbing mountains. Yeah, I'm fucking, look at me, Mr. Healthy. I'm fucking, I'm in the best place ever. It's like, yeah, but you're still so far away from where you need to be. And where you need to be is to be. And it's been the practice now of creating space to just fucking be. And it's difficult, but it's a practice of discipline. It's a practice of realizing that it's establishing a greater purpose that is beyond me, because I'm realizing that this is not about me. It's not about me at all. I am the door in which the doing occurs, and the surrendering to that, which again is fucking terrifying. And again, finding myself in situations where I'm questioning that. Hello, ego. Oh, you're here again. Fear, doubt. And I can empathize and I can sympathize with individuals who find themselves in places where they're confused and feel stuck or addicted to these substances. And if you even mentioned the word God to me even 2 years ago, I would have said, fucking bullshit. I mean, yeah, we're just here. We die and that's it. You know, fucking enjoy your life. But that was a resistance that I needed to work through in order to surrender to the truth. And again, the truth will fucking piss you off until it sets you free. And that's still a process. And that process will go on and on and on. So I appreciate that. And I'm quite curious though with the planets and the cosmos and how you see that or feel that as an integration to this whole process, because this is not something that I have brought into my own journey or process. You start talking about Pluto doing this or Jupiter doing that, and I'm going, what does that mean? Does that mean the planets kind of moved one direction, or is it, what the fuck? I know it's all energy, but how do you see those aspects of astrology actually influencing our journeys or paths or actions here or purpose here? What is the correlation to, before you answer, to put this in because it's very specific and it's very complicated, I'm sure, at its depth, but to put this in the simplest format possible so people can actually grasp some sort of understanding as to what you mean when you talk about these cosmic patterns or cosmic influences.
Well, the most simple way to put it is, if it's raining, you'd wear a coat or use an umbrella, or you wouldn't go out at all, but you'd see that it was raining. So you'd make a choice about how you would respond to the weather. Well, it's no different with astrological energy, because like I said at the beginning, there is the seen and the unseen. We have apparatus, these physical apparatus that is like any radio can pick up, a certain number of stations or within a frequency. It can't pick up anything outside of its frequency unless we create a radio that can. And, we have got incredible geniuses that can do that. We can hear things, out in space with the Hubble telescope and all of this stuff. So the physical apparatus that we have, we can only see a certain set of dimensions, but we can certainly feel more dimensions. So again, bring it back to my rainbows. I see so many rainbows where I am, which is absolutely incredible. I love rainbows. But the more I look at them, the more I don't see the 7 colours of that rainbow. I see the extra colours on the other side. I see that sometimes it can be double. It gets a bigger bandwidth. It depends on how present you are to your own energy as to what you see, what you hear, what you feel. What we are experiencing as a more global energy at the moment in this awakening, which I really prefer to call a remembering, but it is an awakening, is that we are bringing online more of these senses. So it's not to say that we couldn't feel the rain, the sunshine, the different, vibrational energies that come from the planetary experience, but we're now able to actually identify when certain things are happening, and we can correlate them to experiences in our mind, our body, our healing, collectively and individually. So the planets have got 2, for me anyway, they've got 2 sort of natural energies. One is to deliver light. Now, shite to light. We are all light. Light is all there is. God is light. The sages say that the teachers of our past say we are only light. We are light, but we are held in a vessel that allows us to experience the dark so that we can return to the light. So essentially the planets, it's like a pinball game for me. I see this light coming and hitting certain planets, and then as it hits a certain planet, it picks up their kind of energy, their sound frequency, their light frequency, and then hits the next planet, and it creates a tension there, or it creates an easy flow of energy there. And before you know it, it hits the moon and it hits Earth and it hits us. Because let's face it, if there's no such thing as time, there's no such thing as space, there's no such thing as, separation, then we're all one anyway. So we're all part of this cosmic juice, this cosmic light, this cosmic energy. And paradoxically, and I think this is something that maybe your listeners as well might be challenged with, but this is the way that the deeper we go, the more paradox we have to hold. So we have to hold that it's all about me and it's not about me at the same time. It's all about the light and it's not about the light. There's only now and there's linear time. There's all of these different energies that we have to hold. So for me, the second energy of the planets is the mythology. So the ancients would look at these planets, they would study them. They wouldn't have the Instagram that we've got and, people writing about them all the time. There'd be maybe 3 or 4 people that would be assigned to the king or the queen that were always in deep meditation, really connecting to their energy. They would draw down the energy of the environment of the cosmos. And through all of this, they would find archetypes for the energies. So, for example, Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system. And Jupiter is this energy of abundance, of luck, of excitement, but it's also a magnifying energy. It's a giver of gifts. So I associate it in my own system as Father Christmas. I'm like, he's the giver of gifts. He's jolly. It's really exciting. He rules Sagittarius, which is also around Christmas time. This really jovial, mythological character is how I see Jupiter. However, if you had Christmas every day, you'd soon get sick of Christmas. You'd soon get pissed off with all of the luck and the gifts that you're given. And also, if you were living in your shadow, you wouldn't want to be having your shadow magnified every fucking day. So there's a shadow side to any of the archetypes. Venus, for example, we spoke about that prior to the podcast. Venus is the only feminine energy, apart from the moon-ish, in our solar system. She rules both love and money. This tells us something incredibly powerful about our ancient systems before capitalism. That money was about love. Love was about money. Money, take that away, money was called talents. They were talents. They were pentacles. Well, if I'm in my talent, if I'm in my heart energy, if I'm in love, if I'm sharing and giving and receiving and in gratitude and moving through my heart energy, I'll never have to worry about money because I'm in the energy of abundance. So a lot of the modern astrology is, well, a lot of it's coming back to the ancient astrology now, but a lot of modern astrology would say, you know, manifesting money and use Venus to manifest money. Well, actually, if you go deeper, you'll find that the sages were a lot about move into the Venus energy of the heart. Move into what you love and you value. When you work from what you love and you value, you'll never work because it's a joy, it's a pleasure. And as you move into the pleasure, not the pleasure of scrolling or the pleasure of porn or the pleasure of alcohol or the pleasure of distraction, the pleasure of purpose, the pleasure of connection to yourself, to your heart, then abundance naturally flows. And that may well be financial abundance, but a lot of the time it's resources. So the access to resources, and that might be through friends, that might be through, you know, connections. You might just get what you need and it's, I don't know, it's a cup of coffee that morning because you've forgotten your wallet and somebody ends up buying it for you. That's just as powerful an abundance as, you know, working hard all year to make whatever it is, your 6 figures or however you want to create. Venus is very much about the heart. So when we have a look at all of the planets lined up, you'll see that each one of them rules a very specific part of the human experience. And when we work with them as archetypes, they can become guides. And when we look at them mathematically and their configurations, we can actually see that their influence is like the weather, but it's on our psychology. And our psychology is primarily what is moving us forward in evolution right now. You know, we're no longer cavemen and women, although we may have some of the biology left over. But our minds, our brains are growing rapidly. And this distraction you've talked about with social media, it is there on purpose. It is there as a distraction. What does that mean? Traction, moving forward, I want to disallow your movement forward. So keep moving off track. When actually, if we focus and get into clarity, we do that through moving into the heart, which essentially is very confusing, particularly for men first. But if we can sit through the confusion, if we can use these tools that are the nervous system tools, the bodily, the somatics, the ancient, whether it be astrology, philosophy, the guides that knew how to guide us before there was social media and capitalism, we will find our way through the confusion into clarity, and that will release purpose. Oh God, I could go on forever, to be honest. There's so much about the body that is related to the planets and the planets that are related to the collective. And I suppose that's been part of my life, really, trying to look at where it's syncretism. So where all the ancient systems of understanding and belief come together and sit on top of each other. And I think that's where we're coming as a collective right now.
Which is what the pyramids were used for, to bring energy.
Well, which was used?
The pyramids.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I don't believe that there was a load of slaves that built the pyramids at all. You know, when you go deeper, the truth is always way weirder than, you know, you've been told. And I think in the next 5 years, if not 2, to be honest, we will have some big revelations in this world that will really not only awaken us, but shock us to what is beyond our ken, beyond our understanding. And just like doctors didn't know there was germs, you know, 200 or 300 years ago, they would go to a death, they would clean up the body, then they'd go to a woman that was giving birth, and, you know, that baby might die or the woman might die, and, this would be happening forever until people started looking into what was happening and they found microscopic germs on doctors' hands. We would never in a million years now not wash our hands. We wouldn't even have somebody going from a death to a birth. We would segregate that. But this was so normal. And yet germs, it's normal for us now. Whereas back then, this was something that was unseen. Couldn't possibly believe that a doctor who was at the highest level of our community wouldn't know these things. And obviously they were like, this is a lot of shit. I am a doctor. I know what I'm doing, until more and more and more evidence came out that germs were real and that you would have to clean yourself and it would prevent deaths. And everyone had to accept it in the end because now it's just normal. So look out for what's about to occur in the next couple of years where there will be unseen energies revealed, just like germs. You can't see them, but we know they're there. And we wash our hands all the time now. There will be some unseen energies that will be presented to us and it'll become so normal for our children that, it'll be like the germs story with the doctors.
Mm. At the same time, there is the rise of these artificial energies, which is the duality of the world that we live in, the light and the dark again, isn't it? So the light of these incredibly powerful divine energies, and then the darkness of the malevolent, possibly evil energies. And I believe I said it to you. It just came to me when I was speaking to you on the podcast or the Instagram series, that we're told by these people, by scientists, by people of quote unquote stature and power,
educated people,
that artificial intelligence is going to be 1,000,000 times more intelligent than a human being. And I'm going, fuck off. I mean, yeah, but they don't have a soul. They don't have divine energy. They don't have access to these things either. And we are a lot more intelligent and a lot more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, which is going to be found through the exploration of ourselves and through being with ourselves and realizing that there's something more here to this experience that you're living right now than you have ever realized, which we're both going through. Again, this type of conversation couldn't happen a year ago. And where do you see that fitting in terms of the light and the dark, the artificial intelligence with this divine intelligence? What's happening here with these two, with this duality, let's call it?
Okay. Are you ready?
Yep, let's go.
Okay. First of all, there's no such thing as duality, but there also is. So we've got that paradox straight away that no matter where we go with any of the energy, everything is divine source, everything is perfect, everything is written, we get to play our part in it. And I suppose one of the things that keeps coming to me to language is the true free will that we have is how we connect to pain. If we have a look at what real free will is, you said it's the script, it's nothing to do with me. Well, okay, you could keep rejecting that. So that script still stays there, but you keep rejecting it. So your only free will is how you are going to accept the call, the gift. If you keep accepting the call and the gift, it is going to bring pain because that is the dissolution of that ego structure. So you are essentially who you are becoming is going to offend who you are. So you will break who you are in order to become the next person. And most of the time, we don't want to break who we are. So if we see that as a foundation, a lot of us don't want that AI because it's going to break who we are. We don't want this artificial intelligence. But what if we are the artificial intelligence? What if we are a hybrid already? I don't see birds going around talking about, getting their passports out because they've got to fly from one country to another. I don't see frogs going, I'm going to jump from one pond to another, lads. I'm going to have to learn a new language. They don't have to evolve in the way that we have to through thought and conscious choice. They adapt and evolve, and life lets them evolve. We are artificial intelligence. We've already got an adaptation to our mind that allows us to listen to our thinking, to choose our thoughts, to listen to 100 different people that could be going on all the time. I call it the boardroom. My boardroom's busy. I have to really get them under control. We are already artificial intelligence. AI is just the next level of evolution so that we can look at the mirror back to ourselves. We talk about these divine relationships. We're the mirror of each other at all times. We can feel it. We don't want to. We don't like what we see in people that we judge. We don't like it when we're given a reflection that kind of cuts us to the place that I thought I was different to that. But we love it when we get a beautiful reflection back and we're told how great we are.
Yeah.
Well, AI is nothing more than the reflection of ourselves on the outside. Go into ChatGPT and ask it about yourself. If you put enough information in, it'll come back and give you exactly what you want to hear back. The brain is the same. It can only give you back what you have put in. The heart, as you mentioned, is very different. The soul is connected to everything. There is essentially only one soul that's been fragmented between all of us, which is why when you go into the heart, it's very, very difficult to judge because we're all the same. It's very, very difficult to blame. It's difficult to have shame because the creator doesn't have shame. And I think what we're going to find, like any evolutionary process, is it's going to really upset who we are first before we adapt, change and grow and integrate. That might take 10, 20, 30 years. It could take 100 years. Who knows? But it feels rapid at the moment, and it feels like sometimes we're not asking the wrong questions, but we don't really understand the question that we're asking. And I heard something recently, Elon Musk, who is, again, one of these characters that you don't know whether is he on one side or the other side, or does it fucking matter what side he's on if it's all perfect and it's all written anyway. And he said something about if the answer is the universe, then what is the question? So stop asking the fucking questions about, where are we going with this and what are we doing with that? The universe already is the answer. It's already there. So what was the question that created this answer? Because we're in the answer right now. I know.
Whew, that's fucking loaded. Jesus.
Yeah. So it's like, well, if I am the answer, what was the question? If you are the answer, what is the question? And we all go around with little mini questions, every single one of us. I believe that we've all got, a question and an answer inside of us that contributes to the collective. And you mentioned something about purpose. We don't have to find our purpose. Our purpose is who we are. We reveal more of it as we allow ourselves to reveal more of it. And I've allowed myself to reveal more and more of it. And sometimes when I speak it out loud, it sounds crazy. And so the response to my purpose is to become ironically quieter and allow it to just be.
The craziness is the ego stepping in, going, hey, what the fuck? This is not.
Yeah. Stop talking shite.
Yeah. Well, this is not the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that as well. Even when I'm talking to you or other people who haven't had in this podcast quite recently, because I'm on this journey myself in terms of talking about divine energy and talking about God in the heart. And
how does it feel when you're doing that?
There's a part that goes, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. Come on, come back. Come back to not believing. Come back to this old story that...
He's gone now, that fella. He's gone too far.
Exactly. He's gone. Yeah. But I'm leaning into it as we spoke about earlier, leaning into the resistance and, being on this journey for a while. It's all part of the script. It's all part of the process. But this new chapter, I've only got a couple of lines written so far. So there's a whole cascade of information and awareness that I'm yet to access or receive as I learn to surrender all the more and be all the more, which is, as I said to you, very uncomfortable. That pull from the ego is sometimes very, very strong. Even last night, I've spoke with this before. I was staying in a hotel room, and an hotel room is that's where my demons come out of the shadows, so to speak. And the porn use would be amplified in those situations because it would provoke the feelings of loneliness that I felt as a child, or the sense of abandonment that was associated with. Last night, I was very much at peace. And I say, okay, this is progress. Yeah. And I slept all night. And that's been a process for quite some time, in terms of the resistance feeling a little bit easier to handle over time. Porn has been dissolving in my life, or that part of my life has been dissolving in the last 3 years, let's say. But the temptations and that pull has still been quite intense. Yeah. Even last night, I was like, no, it's okay, because to go there is not part of my purpose. It's going to dissolve an energy that's required for this purpose. It's going to dissolve an energy that I want to bring to this conversation today with you, with this connection, with whoever I'm engaging with. And that comes through the experience of actually allowing the ego to take over and wasting that energy through. Now, that's a judgment. I understand that's a judgment of shame, perhaps, in the past, that I would have felt, in terms of wasting this energy through a porn site, through ejaculation, and then not having that energy then to create something more significant that's part of a greater purpose. So that's come to be as I am learning to be. And quite a recent realization as well was, somebody asked me this on Instagram, actually today, about how do you embrace your feminine? And the feminine was something that I rejected for a long time, because that feminine energy was fucking attacked by bullies and by society as a child. And I said, okay, that shit, I can't display this. I cannot be this sensitive child, because that sensitive child is going to get fucking hurt. So I pushed that part of myself away for a long time, and now I'm bringing it back out of the darkness and using that as a light for other men to step forward, because you may have your own interpretations about this, but the sensitivity is what actually allows me to connect with these individuals on a deep level. I can feel you. I am sensitive to your energy. I can feel it. And somebody breaks down, somebody starts crying, like the weekend, and I feel you right now. And that's incredibly powerful. Yes, exactly. But I had to create that safety within me first.
Correct.
So all the childhood wounds, there's still some wounds there, of course, but the childhood wounds that are associated with that experience, where I was the sensitive child who was attacked, who didn't fit in because I wasn't meant to fit in. And it's all part of the process, is now having the courage to bring that back out and say, hey, it's okay, little child, it's okay. This is who you are, and it's okay to be who you are. These individuals just simply don't understand it, or you actually threaten these other children with your sensitivity, with your whatever you want to call it. You're more awake, or whatever else. My teacher would have used that term with us at the retreat quite recently, is that you didn't fit in because you were more awake than others in society. So it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting. And through that, I began to explore the sensitivity, and it's like, okay. And that's one part. There's many other parts, of course, as you know. It's like, okay, here's one part. I'll bring this back out. Oh no, where's the next part? Okay, bring this back out. So it's again finding myself again, going back to that truer version of who I was before that was taken away by society, by judgment and shame that were associated with the reactions of the people that I was looking up to as a child in order to fit in, be accepted, be loved. And their love means more to me than the love I have for myself. It's like, no, it's time to flip it around. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But
it's beautiful to hear. I think the reflection is, we had the conversation on Waking the Warrior. Part of my call to create that was through seeing men in that situation, that they've got this incredible power inside of them, this incredible sensitivity that they have been told is weak. And actually, it's far from weak. It's actually where their power lies. And I've seen it time and time again, as you will have in your work, that when men come face to face with that part of themselves, it can be incredibly, it's life-shattering, because on one hand, the masculine has to be the protector, the provider, the one that, is the leader, the one that is strong and steel, the wall, the warrior, the one that goes out into the world and protects the feminine energy, or at least that's the archetype. But what they've actually not done is protected the feminine inside of themselves. In fact, they've shut her down. They've shut it away. That sensitivity, that chaos, that void, that magnificence, that magical child has been shut down. So how can you truly protect that which you do not understand? And I find that a lot in my work when I give them the feminine as a reflection. It's, fuck, if I go into this little child energy, I've got no fucking power at all. I can't protect this magnificent woman with a womb who is able to birth, humans through her. And she's got this incredible amount of cosmic, mysterious energy, because that's essentially how the masculine archetypally sees and feels the feminine. So they become very afraid of it. And they become afraid of that inside of themselves, because if that's inside of me, how do I control it? And so as you're experiencing, it's allowing yourself to lose control of managing the sensitivity inside of you, managing the sensitivity outside of you, and allowing a space that is protective and powerful enough for that sensitivity, for that inner feminine to come forth shyly, maybe at first, in rage, in power, in tears, in hurt, in whatever way it wants to come, that it's not going to be judged. And as you allow that to come up and out in yourself, as you have experienced, you literally, your muscles get filled with a new elixir. You actually fill your body with this kundalini energy that is like, it's just honey, and it becomes magnetic. If you really want to be a divine masculine and hold a divine feminine in your energy, you need to be doing this work, because that's what actually attracts and holds, and it's the magnet, it's the gold, it's the elixir in your body. And it's the same for the feminine. The feminine has left her masculine in the dark too. There's a lot of women that are men haters, or even if they're in partnership, they speak badly about their partner, or they don't revere the masculine, because they don't revere the masculine in themselves. In fact, what a lot of women have done, particularly in my generation anyway, is they've become more masculine. So now they think they're more masculine than the men that they're with, so they belittle them. And as they belittle them, what happens? Only that man feels more shame for his inner feminine. And we're now in a shame cycle. So a lot of the work that I do, whether it be personal work or with businesses, it sounds weird, but it's looking at who you are as a dual being and marrying those energies inside so that you can create not only your own inner marriage, which again has got a connotation around, the external marriage, but this energy of the feminine and the masculine together to create such a powerful safety, such a powerful magnetism that again, you attract, it's not even attract, you reveal who you are, you reveal the world around you, and those that are in the same energy as you will be revealed too. And that's when the real golden connections start happening and this elevation of energy starts happening. So I can see that in you when you're speaking. I can see when you're talking about the hotel room. I keep hitting the mic. I can see it when you're speaking, and I can see the scared self-soothing that needs to happen because I'm on my own, and again it's a nervous system trigger, which once you learn how to regulate and open the nervous system to safety, which again is an illusion because which is brilliant because you can create that illusion, you then open yourself up to that safe space of which you're now seeing the measurable results of doing that work. I think a lot of men find it difficult to go through the process because they want the measurable results now. In the world of action, they can make things happen really quickly. Well, you try and open your nervous system really quickly. It ain't going to do it. It takes time. It takes patience. It takes surrender again and again and again. And, I accolade you for doing this work and for presenting it the way that you do to the audience that you do and standing by it. And again, I look at it as divine because without that scared little boy, you wouldn't be growing into this golden elixir of a man.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you.
Good.
And the work you're doing and the connection and the energy here as well, as I'm sure you feel.
Mm.
I'm thinking, what is she feeling?
What does it feel like?
It feels as though we have known each other for quite some time.
Mm.
Yeah. And this is a very familiar place for me. Yeah, to be speaking to you. So there's past lives here between us, and I feel very content and at home here with you. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. What about you?
Welcome home.
What are you feeling?
Content.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of growth that gets to happen. I think that you've got a voice that gets to be heard.
Mm-hmm. I feel that's a purpose.
Mm.
That is part of the purpose, yeah. Which I'm stepping into all the more.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Or allowing it to be revealed.
Exactly, yes. Mary Kate, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For this opportunity, conversation, connection, and for all that you are and all that you do. It's amazing. It's beautiful. And for anyone who wants to get in touch with you, reach out to you, feels a calling to connect, where is the best place they can find you? Let us all know.
The best place is probably still my Instagram. As you mentioned, things are forming. I'm kind of going a little bit quiet at the moment. So I'm working with those that are really ready to step into their next level of awakening, that molten gold. And that can be in their personal life or in their business life. So marykate.medicine on Instagram is the first place to find me. But yeah, you might see a little bit of a change on there in the next few weeks.
I'm intrigued.
It's exciting.
Thank you so much.
You're
Until
welcome.
next time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste. No, I'm going to stay.
Brilliant.
Thank you.